Hi, my name is Chris McAllister. Welcome to the Sight Shift Podcast. If you've ever found yourself in that tense place of leadership where big goals collide with deep conviction, there's an old word for that. It's called wilderness. And when you're in the wilderness, in the uncertainty, you're in a beautiful place because that's where you can find ancient wisdom. For ambitious, faith-driven leaders, I want you to know there's a way forward and you're not a bad leader to be where you are. We're going to help you in this podcast take all of those moments and use them to make culture your edge in your team, in your organization, in your family.
Well, welcome into the Sight Shift Podcast. Welcome back. For those of you that have been following along for a while, we are back into our culture series, continuing along, kind of following the book, but going in some new and different places too. If you don't have a copy, get a copy. And you can follow right along with us. So today I want to do something a little bit different.
Ooh.
You and I didn't talk about this.
I have no idea what's coming, but I bet it's going to be more exciting than the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I know.
Yeah. I've definitely seen better football.
Yeah.
Well, I should say it this way. More exciting football.
Yeah. They were fighting it out.
Yeah. Great defenses on display.
Totally.
But I do like a score now and again.
Yeah.
More than a field goal. So what I want to do is a different style today, because we're marking a shift in the content.
Okay.
Because up to this point, we've really been focused on the tension points and the risk factors, what to pay attention to, what to look out for. Now we're marking a shift from what to not do, so to speak, or what to pay attention to, into what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're just going to get into the formula a little bit. But I thought maybe it might be interesting just to take more of an interviewer style.
Okay.
And just pose some questions to you and see what comes out as we build up to this formula, this a mathematical way, so to speak, of thinking about culture.
And whatever your first question is, I'm going to do it like when they stage viral things on podcasts, and I'm going to register outrage and just walk off and leave.
Wait, that's not organic in the moment?
Yeah,
come on, burst the bubble.
The Howie Mandel show, Dana White was on there, and he was like, I'm done. That I was all planned and engineered. He was literally in the building recording a different podcast because there's a bunch of studios. Saw Dana White, he's like, let's have some fun. And then the internet loses their mind.
Right?
Like, they're mean, they're evil, they're bad. And it was all a game. So we'll keep your entertainment value high.
All a game to get attention. I swear, folks, this is his idea, not mine. Okay, so again, we're marking a shift. And I've heard you tell the story that's in the book a number of times about your Chick-fil-A days.
Yeah.
And you tell it based on what you learned at the time. Of course, there's been a few years since then. You're not hawking chicken nuggets in the mall food court anymore. But I wonder, years later, after having processed that story, talked about that story, what stands out for you as you think about that moment? Because obviously it's relevant, it's pivotal. You use that story on a regular basis, like I said, including in the book.
Yeah.
I guess maybe for those not familiar with the story, maybe they're hearing it for the first time. Give a little bit of context to the story, and then all these years later, what stands out for you?
Oh, I love the take on this. And by the way, Chick-fil-A, we can help. It's what we do. And we'll give you a discount for the nuggets I stole. The quicker the story, because they'll read it in the book, so I'll be brief. But the idea was I was stealing chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
I was fixing nuggets and popping some in my mouth, and then I would hand them out in the mall and eat some. I think what stands out all these years later, and this is powerful, because I don't slow down and reflect enough, and this is great. How the most dangerous things just aren't obvious. There's an ancient saying, and I think it is a great way to apply to this moment here. The devil can masquerade as an angel of light. And it's the whole idea is that the most insidious forms of evil are often just that, insidious. I mean, it's like it doesn't have a big neon sign around it. It's like you are about to make a moral compromise and deform your character.
It's way more subtle than that.
Yeah. And you want to ruin your leadership. And we were talking this morning about even in what we do, the plumber's house can leak. I was tolerating a bad behavior in our leadership meeting for a long time, and longer than I should have. And just like, if I wouldn't have made a change on that behavior, not a behavior I was committing, because I would change myself quicker, right? It's almost harder to bring that accountability. But if I wouldn't have made a change on that, what would have been the 2 or 3 things now that we would have in our, in that meeting? What would have occurred? This idea of drift. What would it have drifted to? And so I think for me, it's just this idea of like, you can't appreciate enough the idea of how you have to be vigilant. Now, sadly, and this is what I got to say. I got to say this because this is how we help people. Like 92% of the audience that's listening to this is like, okay, I want to sharpen my vision.
Yeah.
8%, I'm affirming what they already believe. Except they're a hypermaniac about it. They're menacing about it. They use the standard of excellence always increasing as a club they beat people with. And so you got to like speak to a little bit of both sides of it. But what stands out all these years later is just how easy it is to slowly compromise into, becoming a worse version of yourself, becoming a bad leader, having bad management standards, whatever. It's subtle.
Interesting. It's interesting to me that you went there, because the follow-up question I wanted to ask you is, how often do you think the tolerating behavior is more prevalent and culture defining than the intentional teaching behavior? Because of course there's the desire to teach, but it seems like often it's more the tolerating, what the leader's tolerating, that is really setting the tone for the culture.
Yeah, I think we make a statement in the book somewhere along these lines, but it's not hard to really figure out what's the false ceiling to how good it can get in your culture just by looking at the things that you are avoiding, the things that you're trying to not really square up with. And some of you would hear that and say, well, it's the things I'm not squaring up with that I know I need to address. It's probably, those are the easy. That's the low-hanging fruit. It's probably something within yourself that you're not just saying, this is reality. I think the first step in growth or transformation, and it's a leader's first task, is to define reality. And you can't define something you won't accept. So you have to be like, this is what's happening. The hardest things that I've ever had to lead through have been, how quick can I accept reality? And in the small moments of everyday life, it's just easy to talk yourself into what you wish was true versus what is true.
Yeah.
And then you put an AI tool on your calendar, and that was me this weekend. I pointed it to my calendar and said, analyze it. And I was like, oh, dang, there's a drift that's occurred there that I wasn't aware of. If you would have said to me what % of my week was going to a thing that really I need to be getting away from, I would have given it a much lower number. And then I'm looking at it and going, okay, I can justify that. I can rationalize it. I can say, well, it's because of last year. It's because of whatever. I have to just accept that reality and like, oh, I'm tolerating this and I can't tolerate it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Again, back to awareness, accepting what is. The phrase I like to use, if you can't see it, you can't change it. And so until you're willing to see it, then it's not going to change.
And it takes courage to see that, be honest about it.
It does. Right on. So okay, so it's kind of like a little bit of setup then for where we're going. Tolerating, seeing, opening up to a new way of seeing culture. One of the things that strikes me about this, and a lot of about a lot of what we do here at SiteShift, is the simplicity. I know that was intentional, and I know we also say it's not just a discovery of something new, it's a rediscovery of true, but there is an elegance in the simplicity. Talk about why the simplicity matters when it comes to culture specifically, and helping us live it out, and everybody that's watching, listening, live it out too.
Yeah, I remember about 6 or 7 years ago working on like the early versions of what this is. And I had a table, I'm pointing over to where we have a conference table over here, probably about half that size, but papers spread out all over. And all it was just tons of notes. I mean, that's kind of how I work. I just make all these notes, and then I have all these, probably somewhere around 600 or 700 points, noticings, learnings, facts, experiences, and I had all this spread out, this cultural, bucket of learnings, and I think I have the picture somewhere, and I took a picture of it because I was like, I know something's here, but I don't know what it is, and the mistake that a lot of people make when they're doing something like that ambitious, is they get it down to like 7 or 8 principles. And so you see this a lot in thought leadership. Well, the problem with that is, number one, it's what you value over or undervalue. So you're not really looking at it through a lens of a template. You're looking at it temperamentally through,
what's important to you.
Yeah. I mean, people hear messages they resonate with, and they typically don't resonate with the thing they need to hear the most. It just is something that's comforting their insecurity. And then two, how can someone take it? The work isn't done if someone can't take it and apply it without exception. And so that requires a simplicity. That requires an elegance. Wisdom is like that. It will fit the exception. And so I'm always trying to like push things out to edge cases and look at crazy exceptions and go, does this still hold true here? Now, I can be guided by things that have worked for thousands of years, and I am, but my default isn't to go, well, that's just true, so I accept it. It's because I believe there's some ancient wisdom here. Let me push this into all these edge cases and see if it still works there. And that's the practice of doing that with companies, but it's also the practice of, surveying and nerding out way too much on this, like Enron, big dramatic examples and everything in between.
Yeah.
If it's not simple, though, it's not been distilled down to its true, its kernel of truth.
Do you think there is something in threes?
Yeah, for sure. And the funnest person to quote on this is Steve Jobs, because he was a little mystical about this. I don't remember if he ever like provided a reasoning for it, but like, on one end you have people that think this is all stupid. On the other end, you got people that are weird with numbers, like too weird with it. And they're like, Mark, there's like 8 bricks up, 2 bricks to the right, 4 bricks down,
right?
8, 2, 4. This is what they're trying to do at the political level, at the highest, whatever, the weird stuff people do. But throughout human history, numbers have meaning, and 3 and 7 and 12 and 9. I mean, these are important numbers, and I'm sure AI will be able to crack the fullest expression of pi and get to some deep understanding of all this. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, absolutely. Now, what's been proven in brain science is 3 is what engages the brain. So this is why Seinfeld had 3 separate storylines. They knew what they were doing. They were doing something at a high level, which was, we're going to turn TV on its head. We're not going to have a moral lesson. They had a rule, there's no hugging. because they didn't want it to have that kind of pushed, forced agenda. It's just an enjoyable, hilarious experience. It would have not been interesting to your brain without the 3 storylines that were all threaded that then would tie in. And so when people do that, they're doing something intelligent for how you speak to the brain.
So the culture model then is both informed by ancient wisdom and also simple because it has 3 elements, because that works for the human wiring to be able to keep it straight.
Yeah, and the first people that were thinking about numbers in a thoughtful way, I mean, you got Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. Before that, Pythagoras, and I can't remember the guy's name, starts with an H, but whatever. Not Hippocrates, but something else. Anyway, they were working through these things and figuring out. So you have the Greek model of culture, which is built on 3. And there was a reason why they were distilling it down that way, because they were trying to understand what's at the base level of what builds a culture. And they knew that the way they could express it and understand it and express it was in this 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could riff on that all day. I'm gonna
Oh yeah, I'm constantly cutting things off.
Yeah.
That I would riff on with my daughter in between TV shows and commercial breaks, and then she does this to me, who? And I think she's asking a who, so I start telling her.
Of course.
And then she goes, asked.
Burned.
I've been burned too many times.
So the reason why I'm the simplicity then of this culture model that you've heard us talk about so far up to this point as communication, change, connection, or in more of that Greek style thinking, faith, hope, and love, ancient wisdom there advanced from the original Greek thinking. Today, let's introduce you to how we think about it as an impact culture formula.
Ooh.
And it's just simply adding one specific word in front of each of those 3 elements. We think of impact culture as the right communication, the right change, and leading to the right connection. Now, for someone who's wired up to get it right, like, whoop, that's like ringing my bell. How do I do it? How do I do it right? It's less about the black and white right way as it is more about paying attention to the right things.
Yeah, the right process.
The right process, exactly. The right system with change in particular. It's working on the right things and working on them in the right way. With connection, it is intentionally deepening connection. With communication, it is making sure the message is clear and it's told in a quote unquote right way, a way that resonates.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah.
The difference between an academic explanation that has all kinds of truth and a story or a metaphor or an engaging type of explanation, and which one captures the human more than the other. So
right
the formula, and I'll restate it and then let you riff on it. Right communication plus right change plus right connection equals an impact culture.
Yeah. So, here's the way to understand the right. There's a accuracy and a precision in the parts and process through each one. So no big, surprise here. We work with a lot of business owners who are going to be one of 2 things: very operationally wired or very charismatic, inspirational. Those charismatic, inspirational leaders, they think they're doing right connection when they love bomb people, right? And they leave the exchange and like, okay, they like me. They're not doing it from a bad motive, right?
Just unaware.
They like me more. I love bombed them. Or I shared a challenge I'm having. We were talking about this earlier. And now I used my hard time as a bid for sympathy to get connection. So they believe in me. They support me. Well, that's not right connection. That's what you think connection is. And so we'll go back to communication just because that one's easy to illustrate. Right communication is a process. you're not just launching a vision out of nothing, and you're not force feeding a vision on the organization, and you're not coming up with something that you think is just brilliant that they're going to be so excited about. What will answer everything that makes communication wrong is if you walk through this sequence. What's the pain to address? How do I share it in a way that makes meaning for others?
Mm-hmm.
And then I express it in a simple, clean, metaphorical way that they can make sense of. Like when you do all three of those, you have unleashed a vision.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a church service yesterday, large church, and they're growing a ton, and they're having to ask as they build a new like auditorium, worship center, whatever phrase you want to use. And I just feel inclined to say at this moment, I can be in any environment like that and love it and grow in it, and because everybody's got their take on things. My flavor is the best flavor of the 31 flavors.
Yeah.
But all that to say, he asked for understanding, the lead pastor, on, hey, it's going to be tough for a while. Parking's going to be a mess. We're going to have to shuttle you in and out. Be patient with us, okay? We're working to a good end. And so here's what he did. He hit the pain. Great. Box checked. Then he hit the meaning. Look at what we're participating in as we endure this pain together. He never gave it a simple, tight, memorable phrase.
Mm.
So where my mind just listening, and I can't help but do this because I'm sitting there, I started doing turns of phrases in my head.
Mm-hmm.
This is a terrible one, but I mean, I only had 0.026 seconds before I was following what he was saying next. But before you want to cuss, spray, play, or pray. Before you want to cuss, spray, pray. Whatever. If he would have found a good phrase to use like that over and over, then he could have called people back to that over and over, and he would have given them something memorable that when they get cut off and trying to get out of the parking lot and the people are mad and angry, you're not throwing your values out the window at that moment. And that phrase is memorable and it catches their attention. It captures their imagination. They come back to it and they laugh at themselves and their normal, stupid human behavior that we all do, course correcting. So what I saw yesterday was like pretty good communication. Almost communication, not right communication.
Yeah.
And, any leader naturally, when they communicate, is going to miss one of those. And they're going to kind of do okay on one and do great at one, right? They may be really great at the phrase, but they run to the phrase before they really drive it into the problem. And it's all intentionally done in such a way that you can do right communication.
Yeah. And we'll go deeper into each of these as we wrap up this culture series. Today is intentionally just a bit of a flyover. But with the simplicity of right communication, right change, right connection, speak to this. Leaders have a million things that they're paying attention to.
Yeah.
Including culture, for those that want to see how good things can get. The simplicity of the model and the ability to say, you only need to pay attention to these things. What does that do for the freedom or the liberty of the leader to be able to know it's just this? Just pay attention to these things when it comes to culture.
Yeah. Simone Weil, we put a quote from her in one of the books. Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. And that's like way before we lived in this era today. So attention is presence. It's our life. It's everything. We only have our attention, really. Where is our mind going? What are we directing it towards? What are we putting our energy towards? The attention between us in this moment, the attention of whatever follows. And so what happens for a lot of leaders is they do tend to have a capacity for a pretty wide bandwidth. A lot of the leaders at the highest levels can absorb tons. And so what they think is, well, I can absorb tons. They're not actively thinking through this. They just treat people how they're treating their own minds. And the only reason they're able to absorb so much of what they absorb is because they've offloaded or outsourced so many other things that would be distracting them. So again, you're just continuing to work at a higher level of where you're directing your attention. And it's a leader's job to shape the directional focus of the organization's attention. It's limited. You only have so much. And if you direct that attention at all kinds of silly, stupid things, fear-based things, you're squandering the most important asset of the organization. So, you and I will joke around and play a lot and whatever, and it's fun, and I would do that all day long. But I'll even say to you in meetings like, oh, hey, if I need to give more context in a meeting, tell me, because I'm going to err on the side of super tight, super brief. If you're in a meeting with a leader and they're just telling stories off the top of their head with no intention and focus, but for their own validation to be expressed and to be witnessed, that's a waste. You're shaping your culture by all these moments. And if you don't know what is the main thing right now, and if you're not keeping the main thing, right communication, something else is going to displace it. And at the beginning of the day, every day, we've all forgotten yesterday. I mean, sleep is a death. We all died. And we came back to life. And we got to do it again. And so it's this idea of like, you got to figure out the main thing, but you got to keep coming back to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so last question to kind of set up where we're headed over the next couple of episodes. Impact. Give the vision. If you could distill it down into a tight, simple, compelling, capture the imagination vision for what an impact culture can be, go.
At the end of the day, an impact culture, through the collective experience of what they accomplished that they thought was impossible, they develop and become something they weren't, and they have a deeper connection for it. That's it. That's what it means to have your life changed. It changes your life. And that is not temperamental. That's a template.
Okay. And that template is what we're going to tease out as we go deeper into right communication, right change, right connection as we go. Any last thoughts that you want to get in for this as the setup for what's coming?
Yeah, I mean, just start to notice where your mind drifts. When you have margin in your mind and you start to fantasize or daydream, whatever you're orienting towards, that's what's deep in your psyche regarding what is drawing you. And so reflect on that before the next episode. Because if it's escapist, if it's all about your validation, then it's not coming from a place of truth, and you're not going to have something quality to communicate. I'm at a different phase of life now, and so yesterday at the Super Bowl, 2 of my daughters had their boyfriends over. So what am I doing in my imagination right now? What's showing up? I'm not having to actively pursue it. It's coming up. I'm picturing me and my wife at wedding ceremonies saying powerful, positive things that help them anchor that moment into their lives forever. Because we're living the fruit of doing an impossible thing, two humans relating for 25 years in a way that they can grow to who they need to become to facilitate this long-term dream, launching children, which results in deeper connection. So pay attention to where your mind goes.
Yeah, so good. All right, well, as always, thank you for being along for another episode. 2 websites that I'll mention. The first, makecultureyouredge.com. You can pick up the book, follow the movement, and then, of course, you can always find more at SightShift, SIGHT shift.com, and we'll see you back again for another episode.
Thanks so much for being with us on the SightShift podcast. I hope in some way we've encouraged you to face, lean into, and become aware of the moments that represent so much transformation possibility. If you want more, you can always go to SightShift, SIGHT shift.com, and learn to make culture your edge.